Thank you all for joining us tonight. It's our second Better Building Speaker Series of the year. And I'm happy that we're being joined by a wonderful guest, Barry Osmun. I'll introduce him in a moment. And I'd just like to tell you a little bit about our plans for the evening. I'll start with a land acknowledgement, and then I'll introduce Barry. Barry will talk to you for about 25 minutes, half an hour, and then we'll open up the floor for questions. My name is Hannah Minsloff, and I'm the Energy Efficiency Coordinator on the Energy team at the Ecology Action Center. The Better Building Speaker Series is taking place in Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral, unceded, and unsurrendered territory of the Mi'kmaq. We're grateful to live in this place that has been home to Renew since time immemorial. We honor past, present, and future traditional knowledge keepers. We honor and support Indigenous sovereignty and the peace and friendship treaties that bind us all in relationship. As an environmental organization working in these lands and waters, the Ecology Action Center is committed to upholding our responsibilities as treaty people and to work toward decolonization and environmental justice. Tonight, we're joined by LEED certified building industry veteran Barry Osmun, sales and marketing at Gitpo Renew Indigenous Renewables. Barry's passion is in bringing attention to innovative renewable energy solutions. He informs, educates, teaches, and encourages engineers, architects, government officials, developers, and homeowners to think outside the box. Based in Natoganeg First Nation on the beautiful Miramichi River in New Brunswick, Gitpo Renew is an Indigenous family-owned and operated business which uses the latest and most innovative technology available for full turnkey renewable energy solutions while honoring and respecting the land and the communities in which they work. Gitpo Renew supports Indigenous people in these technologies to help create a sustainable future in their communities. I'm going to turn it over to you, Barry.
Thanks again, Hannah, and thanks everyone for attending tonight. When Hannah contacted me and asked if I'd be interested in speaking, I immediately said yes. It'd be an honor. Uh, it's been I've been in this business a long time, in the construction business, I guess 36 years, but I'm relatively new to the green movement, if you will, having started Aspect Solutions 2 years ago. So learned a lot in a short period of time, and I learned every day something new. It's a fascinating world that we're living in, and I've been fortunate enough to really, work with some of the newest innovations, in the world, and I'm looking forward to the years ahead. So, you'll see in the screen that you're going to see two companies up there, and they're kind of intertwined, and I'll explain that as we go along. But I started the company on the left is Aspect Solutions, which I started in 2021. And Aspect Solutions is, as the tagline says, remarkable renewables. And I'll show you a few of those in a bit. But it was created, I really wanted to scour the world and find new and innovative solutions that we could incorporate, convince some of these companies worldwide to come to Halifax or Canada and let me promote their new and innovative products. So and just this past year, about a year ago, in May, I guess, I was approached by a group in New Brunswick, which is where I'm originally from. I'm in Halifax now, but led by Chief Roger Augustine, and they wanted to form an Indigenous renewable company, and had some really great ideas, and I'll go over a few of those. But so the relationship between the two of them is that Aspect Solutions um, acts in a technical support fashion for Gitpo Renew as far as sourcing the products, working with the architects, the engineers, uh, and Gitpo Renew is a full turnkey company where we do everything from basic consultation through to installation and maintenance. But we do, through that we do some really neat things. So just a little bit about me, and won't bore you. As I said, I've been 36 years in construction sales. Spent a big part of my career with Shaw Brick in New Brunswick as a regional manager, Pella Windows, and then moved here to become a commercial sales manager for Stone Depot. So basically, my whole career has been construction, uh, really focused on building envelopes, masonry, that type of thing. Received my MBA in 2006, I guess, uh, and majored in marketing, lead certified, and started Aspect Solutions in 2021, and source innovative and non-invasive urbanizable renewables. And I'll talk a little bit about that, what I mean by urbanizable renewables and non-invasive. And as I said earlier, been in a support position as we get Gitpo Renew up and running, and moving ahead in the Indigenous sector. So I'm going to quickly just go through some of the products, and I'm going to quickly go through them, and if anybody wants to talk about a particular product or has a question at the end, I'm going to try to leave lots of room for questions here. So so the first product that you're going to see is a Canadian invention, and that's important because I started really trying to focus on finding as many products as possible in Canada, first of all, secondly, North America, and then if all else failed, then I would go overseas. This a great Canadian innovation by a young couple. It's a shower that actually recirculates and disinfects your shower water in real time. So what happens is shower water comes out of the shower head just like your normal shower, goes through that little drain that you see at the bottom, is filtered, comes up another separate tube where it's the bacteria in the water is killed by UV light, comes back out the shower head where your shower feeds 20% fresh hot water. So uh, solution there is that you end up saving 80% of the water that you use and 80% of the energy used to heat it. Another Canadian invention is this Solidel streetlight system out of Drummondville, Quebec. What's really neat about these are completely solar. There's no wiring, no trenching involved. They have a 3-day battery backup in the LED light. As we know, it never rains here. Look outside, but just in case, you're going to have enough battery backup there to power the light. If we get a stretch like this, what's really neat about it is you see the picture on the left is that the lamp post itself comes in 8-foot sections, and on all 4 sides of the lamp post is your actual PV generating cells. So rather than have a separate solar PV collector at the top of the lamp, it's actually part of the post. And you just keep adding sections. They come in 8-foot sections. So if you want an 16-foot high post, you use 2 sections. and continue from there. Harness is out of Fort Worth, Texas. They're doing some really, really neat things in energy storage and hydrogen storage. And we're really excited to add this company and their technology because it's going to pertain to some of the work that we hope to do in our northern remote Inuit and Métis communities, many of which are still, believe it or not, relying on diesel generators to run the electricity for their community. So Harness has some really neat off-grid type of storage technology that we're working on. So the goal is to eventually have the diesel generators in these communities and elsewhere as a backup, and be able to use clean energy solutions and storage to power the community. And the same company, some of you may be familiar with a product called Tesla Wall. This is a very similar product and very important, and many people never think of it when they're spending a whole lot of money on solar panels for your roof. It's nice to look at this type of product for a number of reasons. Again, rainy days like today, this is going to allow you to have some storage. The other neat thing about it is that with the time of day charges from Nova Scotia Power, you can store your power. You can use regular electricity all day at a lower cost, and then program this to come on when the power rate goes up in the evening. So these another Canadian company out of Calgary, Solar Carports. We look at drive by the Costco on any given day and look at how big that parking lot is, for one example. So what these do is they typically go in parking lots, but you see them sometimes in rest areas, that type of thing. What's neat about them is you're not losing any parking space save for these few pillars, and the PV generation up above. You can park your car right under that, and that's actually powering the building in behind it. So again, it's all about urbanizing renewables and maximizing space that we typically wouldn't think of to use for renewable energy generation. This is probably the most traditional one I have, or the least innovative, but they're innovative in many ways. So EV chargers from a company called Phillips and Tamro out of Minneapolis. Phillips has been around about 100 years. What really attracted to me was their cord management solutions. Such as what you see in that picture. That's what's called an Evo Reel. And I can't tell you the amount of calls that I get from public charging stations or companies that have installed one in a condo or whatever, and people are in a hurry in the morning. They unplug from the car, they drop it, they drive over it. Snowplow ends up plowing it, when any number of things. And I can tell you that the cost by the time you replace the cord, you might as well just buy a new charger. So more and more public charging stations are having to consider solutions like that to protect your investment. So this is a neat one. This is out of Germany. I've done a lot of work with this company, and we're working on some new innovations. But you're all familiar with our large wind turbines that you see, up in the mountains, out in the country. These are small vertical wind turbines. They come in various sizes. What you see there on the left is an installation that's just been completed on the waterfront. That's in Cape Town, South Africa. So that's just a street. And what's interesting is right there next to it, that building you see is actually a 5-star hotel. So not only are these very aesthetically pleasing, they're whisper quiet. So you can incorporate them, when you think about our waterfronts, our parks, our streets, your backyards, what have you. You can put these in. They don't kill the birds or the bats, like the big ones can tend to do. And they're just very quiet. And Solstex is a company out of London, Ontario. They manufacture all different kinds of cladding from aluminum, ceramic, what have you, that you see on large commercial projects. But they also manufacture what's called BIPV, or building integrated photovoltaics. And what that does is that allows us to go to an architect or a developer or a builder and say, listen, you know what? You're going to cover the front of that building with something anyway. Why not incorporate, on the south elevation where we're getting lots of sun, incorporate these panels. They do come in different colors. And I'll show you a slide about the St. Mary's project a little later on, but these basically they're not, unlike rooftop solar, these are not an add-on to your building, they're a replacement. So again, whether it's a retrofit of an aging building that you want to dress up, or it's new construction where the architect has to cover the exterior facade with something, now we have the option to replace aluminum, ceramic, whatever it was that you were going to cover that building, masonry, with panels that are actually going to be attractive, very functional, and they're going to generate solar power for the building that they adorn. So, and yeah, so I just wanted to, and I'll go into Gitpo Renew now. So I wanted to run through the products and the technology that I've been working on through Aspect for the last couple of years, because it really leads us to where we are with Gitpo Renew and what we hope to do. So um, as it says, Gitpo Renew is an Indigenous owned and operated renewable energy company. So it's really interesting how life takes these journeys. And I grew up in Miramichi, a little town called Chatham. And as I was growing up there, I'm non-Indigenous. I'll clarify that. But as I grew up there, many of my friends that I went to high school with, played hockey ball with, we had 6 First Nations communities. My goodness, probably within like a half hour, 45-minute drive of my high school. So I grew up spending a lot of time with, my Indigenous friends in First Nations communities. And I don't pretend to understand, what they went through, but I do have a better understanding, spending time there. And I always had, I guess a special relationship because I grew up in poverty. Fortunately, didn't have to face the racism that our Indigenous, people do, but I knew poverty, and I knew, you know, what it was like, to have a leaky roof and no heat. So as I was growing up, I followed the career of Chief Roger Augustine, and those of you that don't know about him, I encourage you to Google, spend some time. There's actually a film documentary that was produced here in Halifax by a young man by the name of John Mann, and the film was called "You Can Call Me Roger." And what's funny about that is that the first time I met Chief Augustine, as we discussed this joint venture, as a show of respect, I said, it's an honor to meet you, Chief. And the first thing he said was, "You can call me Roger." And I kind of laughed because I had just watched the film. So Roger Augustine grew up in the residential schools in Shubenacadie. I think he was sent there when he was about 7 or 8. Uh, and he, as many of them did, was treated poorly. He ran away from Shuby when he was about 16. Unfortunately, the trauma that he had been through, he fell into alcohol and drug abuse. At age 26, Roger became clean and sober, became a band counselor in Eel Ground in Miramichi, and subsequent to that became chief. And he rose up through the ranks to become basically the second highest ranking Indigenous leader in Canada. He was Chief Phil Fontaine's kind of right hand man. So Roger was the regional leader for AFN. So um, retired a few years. Unfortunately, Chief Rogers' health isn't very good right now. We're praying for him. He's had some cardiac issues, but what's really neat since he's retired is he's spent a lot of time, as he did as chief, uh, working on behalf of his people, trying to create a better life uh, for them and a better way, more inclusive way forward. So a few years ago, he built a not-for-profit in his community called the Gitpo Spirit Lodge. And the Gitpo Spirit Lodge is all about healing, mental health, addiction support, but through an Indigenous lens. So on that note, Roger wanted to kind of use that template, if you will, to for other ventures such as Gitpo Renew, where he wanted to use Indigenous traditions and values, what's often referred to as the two-eyed seeing approach. But kind of where I came in is with all the new modern Western technology that we could incorporate through an Indigenous lens, if you will. And I'm really proud to say that Galen, who you see there on the left, is Roger's son. He's kind of following in his dad's footsteps, but he hates when I say that, but he wants to be his own man. But Galen is now a band counselor in Eel Ground and will probably be the next chief there. And he sits on many national committees for the Assembly of First Nations. So, he's kind of picking up the legacy. And what's neatest of all is the young lady that you see on the right, Iana Augustine, Roger's granddaughter, Galen's daughter, is finishing her MBA at the University of New Brunswick. And when she's done, she's going to join Gitpo Renew. So, very important to know that although I'm there in a support position, this is very much meant to be, this is not a symbolic Indigenous company. Uh, this is very much meant to be a company that is owned and managed and day-to-day operations are Indigenous. And there's myself, an engineer that I know that's very good in renewables. He helps me with support, but um, this is this is very much their company. And when I was approached by them last year, my first thought was I was only about a year into, a little over a year into Aspect Solutions, and as anybody that's been an entrepreneur knows, I was running around like crazy trying to get a startup off the ground and pay the bills, and I had my plate full, and to the point where every time I told my wife, about a new renewable product, her answer was always, "Seriously, Barry?" Because she just knew, how many hours I was working. But when this was presented to me, I couldn't say no for a number of reasons. A few years ago, not unlike Gitpo Spirit Lodge, Roger founded another uh, not-for-profit called Workforce Warriors Canada. And what Workforce Warriors does is identify Indigenous people, in our case, that are interested in a career in renewable energy, solar, wind, EV chargers, what have you. And what we do as with Gitpo Renew is we provide a full turnkey consultation through the Indigenous lens. So, let's say Millbrook, for example, um, wants to do a solar farm. We would, Galen and Roger and Ayana would connect with the elders and the ecology team on that in that community, find out what their concerns were, what they wanted, that type of thing, and then that would be brought to me and our support team, and we would put a proposal together, but it's very much defined and steered by one-on-one consultation from Indigenous leaders to Indigenous leaders. But Workforce Warriors, um, what really intrigued me about this is um, if we're doing a renewable energy installation in Millbrook, for example, uh, we would contract that to a certified solar installer. Um, Part of that agreement that we would have with the installer would be that they allow a number of certified or pre-vetted candidates from Workforce Warriors to work on the job with them. So um, these folks come into the office. Myself and others will train them in the particular technologies that we're going to be installing, and then when the actual install comes, they go out and work side by side as employees of the contractor, and hopefully they gain the confidence and the skills to say, you know what, we want a career in this. What's really, really exciting about this is that there's been two projects completed to date using this template, if you will. One is Natoganeg First Nation in New Brunswick, and another one is in Newfoundland. There were six clients provided by Workforce Warriors to the solar contractor. Out of those six, five are still working with the contractor. They've accepted full-time employment. And the sixth, not for naught, decided he liked us so much, he's enrolled in community college in Miramichi, and he wants to be an electrician. So if that isn't enough to inspire you, I don't know what is. And what Roger believes and I believe is that this is how true reconciliation is going to look. Uh, Too often we're still seeing it today, and I really need to bite my tongue because I'm in the renewable energy sector. But what's way too common is so-called partnerships where a company comes and says, you know, they want to build 25 wind turbines and I'm just using that for an example. There's many examples. And, they have a duty to consult. Truth be known, many of them don't want to consult, but they have to. So, they get in contact with local First Nations, many times the nearest one to where they want to do the project. They say, hey, we want to put these turbines up. Don't worry about, you guys don't have to worry about, we're going to put them up. Here's a check for $6 million. We're going to do a photo op, shake hands, and that's the end of it. That money, don't get me wrong, is very welcome. And until I became educated, my thoughts were, oh, geez, this is great. The contractors are building, renewable projects, and the money's going into the community. That part is good, but it really doesn't create long-term knowledge, ownership, and prosperity in these projects. And what we're doing will, by you know involving the First Nations leaders right from the beginning with our First Nations management team. We're going to work from day one to make sure that everything is uh, as it should be, as they want it. And again, we're going to integrate, First Nations, Indigenous, uh, people that want a career in this business. And it's there's been a lot of studies done on it, and Roger's a firm believer, as are all of us involved in this, that this is the way forward, and this is going to create true reconciliation. And you know what? My hope is in a few years, there'll be many aspect solutions, or Gitpo Renews that are Indigenous owned all over the country. So yeah, that's kind of how the technology meets what we're doing with Gitpo Renew. So I'm just going to finish quickly, just to show you just a couple slides, just of some of the technology, and then I'll open it up to questions. So um, these are the vertical wind turbines that I told you about. And first thing you're going to notice is they only go about 10 meters up in the air. So you're not bringing in big excavators, that type of thing, to dig a huge trench. These are only 10 meters up in the air. They're very non-invasive, and we've had great response so far from First Nations communities, because many of them lack land. They don't have a whole lot of land. And very important, and this is where the great fit is between Aspect and Gitpo Renew, is that all of my products were sourced with that in mind, even before Gitpo came along. Was that I wanted non-invasive technology that we could put in our communities. I just always found it kind of counterproductive, that we would want to put renewable or green solutions in the ground or in the water or in the air, that were at the same time kind of damaging wildlife, marine life, bird life, that type of thing. So these are going to be a really, really good fit in many First Nations communities, and they're doing some exciting work too. And we hope to have some announcements soon. But they're working on integrating these small turbines within the solar panels, so that um, on days like today, many times where you're not getting a whole lot of solar generation, usually there's a wind blowing. So these will be turning and still generating power even on the rainy days, or in the winter months where we don't get as much sun. So yeah, we're excited about these. These are currently manufactured in Germany. This project was just completed in Cape Town, South Africa. So we're working very hard, trying to convince the governments here to help us invest in this and bring this technology here. The Germans would really like to manufacture here for North America. So uh, just to give you a little comparison, when I say non-invasive, on the left are four of those turbines that you just saw on the previous slide, loaded on a truck, heading for South Africa. In the right is your typical large uh, horizontal wind access turbine. Those are just the blades. So you can see the difference between the footprint created, and keep in mind these come over on boats. And that's not even showing the actual pylon itself. So again, I'm not putting down the large technology. In fact, we see a fit between the large companies and incorporating these smaller turbines in areas where they're not currently able to go. They're two different animals. I mean, the largest vertical wind turbine right now is only producing about 8 kilowatts of power. So, but you can't put these in your backyard. You can't put them on the Halifax waterfront, and you can't put them in your city park. So this is a project that many of you may be familiar with, especially if you're in Halifax. This is the St. Mary's Loyola building, and I spoke earlier about Solstex cladding. This actually isn't Solstex. This is a company called Mitrex, which is a company I represented. I was involved in this project with Mitrex, but I since switched to Solstex only because Solstex also makes the aluminum and the ceramic, so it allows me to not only quote the solar portion of the cladding, but also the rest of the building. What's interesting about this project is it's a retrofit. So this is an old 1970s era precast building, and the original purpose of this project for St. Mary's was they wanted to dress the building up. So the talk with the architect was, this is the new Sobey School of Business that's going next to it, very modern, aluminum clad type of thing, and they felt as these buildings kind of rose up around campus, the older precast buildings were getting a little, aesthetically, kind of standing out, not in a good way. So we said, well, look, what if we could do both? What if we could give you a nice new modern finish? This is a south elevation, which gets the most sun, so that you'll blend in better with the adjoining properties, and we could create solar energy. So to their credit, the Board of Governors at St. Mary's was on board, and they took the ball and ran with it. And I'm proud to say that I think it was about 6,000 square feet of this cladding went on the side of the building. And these were also existing windows, and we replaced those actually with solar glass. So that 6,000 square feet and the few windows is now generating 100,000 kilowatts of power per year for the university. So think about that in this perspective. And I try not to talk about it too much because it maddens me, but I'm sure you guys can relate. So at any given time, the last couple of years, we've had 33, 34 cranes up in greater Halifax that are putting up new condos, apartment buildings, what have you. Not one of those buildings is using this technology. Most of it, if I'm being honest, is price driven. I will say, and I can address that in the questions in a minute, but this is with the rebates, with the federal tax rebate, this is, believe it or not, it's becoming competitive with aluminum, especially when you factor in the power generation capabilities. But when I go talk to a developer who, and they will admit this, it's all about getting that building up at the lowest cost possible, and, filling it. And really frustrating. And, I've met numerous times with Tim Hallman, the environment minister. I've met with the premier and said, look, you guys have the capability. Tell these guys, it's a little simple change in the building code. If you want to put up a building in Halifax or Nova Scotia, then you're going to have to incorporate this or don't build here. And I guarantee you, and I've been doing this for 36 years, I guarantee you that not one of those developers would say no. They wouldn't. But that's kind of where we're at. So if you can sense the frustration, that's yeah, that's that's it. So yeah, that's the end of my spiel, and I'll take any questions. Be happy to answer them, but and also encourage Hannah to share my email with everyone. If I'm always open for a chat, or if you have any questions, fire off an email, and I'll be more than happy. So.
Thank you so much, Barry. That was a fascinating presentation. I invite our attendees, feel free to turn on your mics if you have cameras. If you want to turn on your feel free to turn your cameras on as well. If you have any questions, just shout out. I found it very interesting to hear about all the different products that you've been researching and supporting, and how that ties in with the work that you're doing with Gitpo Renew. And I was particularly interested in hearing about the workforce warriors. And
Yes, fascinating. Yeah. Yeah.
yes. And so my first question for you, I'll start everyone off, is um, kind of just wondering how Gitpo Renew is connecting with people who might be interested, um, and also what kind of previous training would they need so that they can jump into an opportunity like that?
Yeah. A couple great questions. So to answer your first question, we're really just getting Gitpo Renew off the ground now, because it's kind of funny. I use the analogy. It's been a little bit like flying an airplane while you're building it. So we put this together very quickly. I think my first meeting with the Augustines in New Brunswick was probably April last year, and they said, this is what we want to do. Are you on board? Blah blah blah. And I'm said, yeah, I'm in, right? But we had to be ready for the Assembly of First Nations show in July, which was here in Halifax, the Circle of Trade. So it was very important that we exhibit in that. So thankfully, my background's in marketing, so I threw the logo together, got a website, got our trade show booth, and we were in that show. And we've attended a couple other shows since. So basically, through that period, is what we've been doing is as kind of working backwards. Okay, now we need a business plan, we need funding, we need all those neat things. So we're just getting to that stage now where what we've been doing to date is just kind of soft marketing with the website. Uh, and we've responded to a few RFPs and that type of thing, but we haven't done any real hard marketing yet, which is amazing, because there's hardly a day goes by where I don't get emails from a First Nations leader or somebody wanting to talk to us. So uh, that's your first question. Second question with Workforce Warriors is really no previous experience at all. It depends on, we can place them at many different levels, Hannah. So, if someone does have construction experience or a little bit electrical experience, then, we take that. I say we, the ladies at Workforce Warriors, who do an excellent job tirelessly. They take that into account and say, okay, this person would be a good fit doing this, and they liaise with the contractor to ensure that the placement is good. But basically, if you're physically fit and you can show a willingness to do the work, then we'll train you. And had a interesting chat with the CEO of the Smart Energy Group, who worked with these clients on the two projects. And he said, look, send me more. Because they're engaged, they are enthusiastic, And he says sincerely that they want to learn and they want to be a part of it. And I think you're seeing that in the new generation of young, and that's why I'm so excited for Iana to finish her MBA, because she's that generation where, Galen puts it the best. He says, we don't want to be spectators anymore. We want to be participants. And I think that may sound cliche, but it really says it all. And that's workforce warriors going to allow them to be participants. And I've talked to a couple of the folks that are still working with smart energy, and they said the biggest thing they needed was confidence, that they could do this, that they had an interest in it, but where do you start? And unfortunately, as we know, there's still racism out there. So they're very aware of that. So they're a little bit reluctant to kind of put themselves out there. But now we give them a head start with the training and the confidence. So when they go out on the job, they've they say after a couple of days, I can do this. So
Thank you, Barry. Does anyone else have questions for Barry or any feedback?
yeah, what's sorry, go
I'll
ahead,
jump in.
Chris. Yeah,
Oh, I'm sorry.
yeah, you go ahead.
Yeah, well, on behalf of VAC, first, thank you so much for doing this. It's really exciting to hear about all this tech. It's really cool. And the way that some of it can be applied and to see how the tech evolves and becomes more efficient and less invasive, as you said. So that's really cool. And I tweaked on a number of things you said, and one of them was when you talked about kind of codes and incorporating certain technology into
Right.
codes. And it's like, I mean, we at EAC have been advocating for just standard energy efficiency, basically net zero energy ready standards to be in the code by 2030, which our province did say they would do, but then didn't. So yeah, we share your frustration, and it's great to hear you say that. I'm just wondering if you have any thoughts on kind of, because what we heard from the province was that the industry wasn't ready.
Yeah.
And one of the things they cited was labor force readiness, and that the labor force didn't have the knowledge they needed to meet the codes yet.
Yeah,
And
I've heard
from
that,
what you're
Chris.
saying, there's people ready and willing to work, and the skills aren't that high level and can be trained what is needed to. So I just wonder
Yeah.
if you have any
Yeah,
thoughts on
it's
the
yeah, thanks. And
readiness of the industry, what it would
yeah,
take to
exactly.
get there.
Yeah, and again, I come at this from, many years in this business. So been there and done that. And I can tell you that it depends on the product, but let's take the BIPV as shown on St. Mary's. That's a regular cladding, Christopher. It's a regular. The installation on that is no different. Any guy that you would see on scaffolding putting up aluminum cladding, that's
Mm,
how those are installed. It's a rain screen system. It's the same system that they've been using for years. It clips up there. The only add-on is the electrical, but the panels themselves just have a little panel-to-panel connection. It's about the size of it's like plugging in your Christmas lights. So
mm,
as he's laying the panels up there, he's just plugging those in. You don't need an electrician for that.
mm-hmm,
The only different part, the only add-on is your interior electrical, which is no different than rooftop solar. So in the case of St. Mary's, Dylan was the electrical engineer. They just gauge the wattage that's needed, and they use inverters. Just nothing is different. The inverters are the same that's been used on rooftop solars for years.
mm,
So yeah, to answer your question, no, and we the manufacturers will fly people in, engineers, to spend the first week, hand holding if you need it to make sure everything's done right. So no, that's a tired reason. And what's been frustrating for me is that, and thank all of you for your continued fight, because all of us together is working in the same direction. But when I started this company, naive, I guess, I was reading all the press, and we're gonna have all kinds of money for green, new, innovative companies and
Mm-hmm.
the green new transition. What's important to remember is that when I started this company in 2021, I was partners in a company called Sunnyweed Northeast with a husband and wife engineering team from Toronto who were Chinese Canadian. And we were importing regular architectural cladding out of China, polluting factories, putting them on container ships, doing very well, mind you. I mean, it kind of ironic, the dirty money, if you will, from the pollution in China has been funding my company. But yeah, there's I've been completely self-funded. I put $300,000 of my own money into this, and because this is new technology, the education cycle is so long and so expensive, especially when you're just one person. It's trade shows, it's seminars, and trying to convince people to look at this new technology, and talking with different, ACOA, Invest Nova Scotia, you name it. And, oh, that's great what you're doing. And yeah, thank you. That's so neat. But you really don't fit our funding model. So that's been frustrating. I could do so much more, but I'm one person. So.
Yeah, thank you for that. Yeah, it's well. Hopefully I'll get another chance to talk to you more later, because
Yeah,
we are working
anytime.
on
Yeah,
a.
there's a lot. Yeah, there's a lot.
Yeah, there's
Yeah,
so
to
much.
cover.
There's
Yeah,
so much.
yeah.
Yeah, but it's
I
great to hear
appreciate it,
you,
Chris. Yeah,
someone actually
appreciate it.
doing the work in the industry, say these things. That's really
Good thing
reassuring.
is I can see the light at the end of the tunnel. We're getting there, and it's just yeah, we'll get there.
Yeah.
Thanks, Chris. Any other questions for Barry before we wrap up our evening? And I'd like to extend my gratitude to you, Barry, for taking the time to prepare a presentation for us, and thank you for being here and sharing all this information with us.
Thank
It's
you.
been a real pleasure getting to know you, and thank you for sharing some really personal moments about your journey as well. And as Chris said, I think we'd love to carry on our connection with you and
absolutely,
and
yeah,
have further conversation.
Yeah, we'll all work together, and Chris, you and I'll chat about building codes, and it would be so easy to do, but the city hands it to the province says no, it's a city issue, and it goes back and forth. So but we're much closer now than we were a while ago. So anyway, in closing, thanks everyone for listening, and it's been an honor. I've long admired the work that you folks do, so this is truly my honor to take part, and anytime I can help out your cause, we're all in this together. So
Thank you.
thanks, and reach out anytime. So
thank you, Barry. And before
thanks so
everyone
much.
goes, I'd also like to invite everyone to join us next month on April 25th at 5:30, same time, same place. I'll put the registration link in the chat for our next Better Building speaker series with Peggy Cameron, who will be speaking about the embodied energy of buildings. So it should be another really interesting talk, and I'm putting the registration link in the chat right now. So again, thanks everyone so much for joining us. I
Thanks,
hope you have a
folks.
great rest of your evening, and hopefully we'll see you next month.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.